Rain hammered against the windows of Aurelio's, turning the upscale Manhattan restaurant into a mirror of blurred lights and tension. Elena Carter, exhausted from a double shift, moved quietly between tables, until the sharp crack of slipping crystal shattered the room's polished calm. She turned just in time to see Sophie's tray tilt, champagne flutes breaking free, spinning toward the corner booth reserved for men whose names carried power and threat in equal measure. And beneath their shadow sat a small boy, legs swinging, unaware of the glittering blades falling toward him. "Matteo, down!" one of the men shouted, chairs scraping too late. Elena didn't hesitate. Something fierce surged through her as she lunged across the marble floor, her voice tearing from her throat. "Hold still, sweetheart." Glass exploded against her back the moment she covered him, pain flashing white. The restaurant froze, every breath held, until a voice low and lethal cut through the chaos. "Who touched my son?" Dante Moretti stepped forward, eyes locked on the woman shielding the boy, and in that instant he understood. Nothing about this night would end the way it began. Like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for the full story. The restaurant fell into a stunned silence after Elena shielded little Matteo, but the moment Dante Moretti stepped forward, that silence tightened into something electric. His men rushed in from the hallway, checking exits, scanning every corner as if danger had fingerprints on every shadow. The rain outside turned heavier, slapping against the glass like a warning the city refused to voice aloud. Elena tried to straighten, but Dante's hand cupped her arm before she could rise. "Don't move," he ordered, his voice low enough that only she heard it. There was something startling in his tone, not anger but fear buried under steel. Sophie stood trembling across the room, hands clasped near her chest, her voice cracking. "I didn't mean," the tray just slipped. Before anyone could respond, the restaurant manager, Richard Hale, strode out from the back. He was known for three things: his immaculate hair, his obsession with wealthy customers, and the quiet contempt he held for employees who didn't fit the elite image he wanted Aurelio's to project. His eyes swept the mess, glass, spilled champagne, a sobbing waitress, and then landed on Elena with a cold sharpness. "What have you done?" Richard hissed. "Get away from that table immediately. You've embarrassed us in front of VIP guests. You'll answer for this." Dante turned his head slowly, the way a storm shifts before breaking. "She saved my son." Richard froze, caught between fear and arrogance. "Sir, with respect, this employee has been a problem before. She's..." He lowered his voice. "Not really the kind of face we want representing our establishment. Our clientele expects sophistication." The implication hit Elena like a slap. Not the right kind of face. She'd heard versions of that line before. Subtle insults wrapped in customer service politeness, all pointing toward one truth: people like her were supposed to stay invisible. Matteo tugged at Dante's sleeve. "Papa, she protected me. She's nice." Dante placed a steadying hand on his son's shoulder, then spoke without raising his voice. "If she hadn't moved, your child would be bleeding on this floor. You should be thanking her." His gaze sharpened. "Instead, you insult her." Richard swallowed hard. "I didn't insult her. I simply said she doesn't fit." "She fits exactly where I say she fits," Dante cut in. And then he turned back to Elena. "Take her to the car," he told his men. "Now." She tried to protest, but his hand pressed lightly against her back, guiding without force. "You're hurt," he said. "You need real care. And you won't get it here." Richard stepped forward. "You can't take my employee without authorization. This is against protocol." Dante's eyes moved to him with a slow, devastating precision. "You think you're in a position to speak about protocol after allowing your staff to endanger my son?" Richard's jaw twitched. "If she had done her job properly, my son would be dead." The words hit the dining room like thunder. Richard paled. And that was the moment Dante decided he'd remember this man. Inside the Moretti car, Elena pressed one hand to her bandaged back, trying to steady her breath. Matteo sat beside her, eyes wide with worry. "I'm okay," she whispered, forcing a small smile. "Really?" "No," he said quietly. "You're hurt because of me." Her heart tightened. "I'd do it again 1,000 times. Dante, seated across from them, watched Elena closely, not with the gaze of a crime boss assessing a threat, but a man studying a puzzle he didn't know he'd been waiting to solve. "Tell me what happened," he said. Elena recounted everything. The cracking sound, the falling glasses, Sophie's terrified face. But when she described Richard's reaction, Dante's expression shifted, something cold settling behind his eyes. "He's treated you like this before?" Dante asked. Elena hesitated. "He doesn't like me. He says I don't match the restaurant's image. Says customers complain about people like me serving at premium tables. And what does he mean by people like you?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence itself was enough. Dante leaned back, voice quiet but edged. "I won't forget his words." At the Moretti estate, Elena received medical treatment, rest, and, for the first time in years, gentle attention that didn't come with strings attached. Matteo visited her every hour, bringing drawings, stuffed animals, and questions that kept her smiling despite the ache in her back. But peace never lasts long in the world orbiting powerful men. 3 days later, a message arrived from Aurelio's. Richard had fired her. No severance, no apology. And in the official report, he'd written that Elena had instigated chaos, manhandled a child, and violated conduct expectations. Dante read the message in silence. His jaw flexed once. Then he stood. "Get the car," he said. Marco didn't ask which one. He already knew. Aurelio's was busy for evening service when Dante walked in, Elena beside him. Conversations faltered. Waiters froze mid-step. Even the chandeliers seemed to steady their light as if sensing something imminent. Richard appeared instantly, plastering on a false smile. "Mr. Moretti, we weren't expecting." "You fired her," Dante said. Richard straightened. "She endangered your son. I made the responsible choice." Elena opened her mouth, but Dante lifted a hand, stopping her. "Do not rewrite events in my presence," he said. "She saved Matteo. She risked her life. And you punished her." Richard's facade slipped. "You don't understand how hospitality works. Appearances matter. Some guests feel uncomfortable being served by." "Finish that sentence," Dante murmured. Richard faltered but recovered quickly. "I only meant she lacks polish. She lacks obedience," another familiar voice chimed in. "Sophie." She stood near the service station, arms crossed, still bruised from the incident. But her eyes avoided Elena's, heavy with guilt. "She never listens," Sophie said, forcing a shrug. "Always thinks she knows better. Someone like her ruins the atmosphere." Elena whispered, pained. "Sophie, why?" Sophie's jaw tightened. "Because I heard your little speech the other day. About how some of us get breaks and others don't. Don't pretend you weren't implying something about me." Elena stepped back. She hadn't expected betrayal, not from someone who'd cried in the dressing room with her just a week ago. Dante, however, saw something else. Fear. Someone had pressured Sophie. "Tell the truth," Dante said quietly. "Who told you to lie?" Sophie flinched. Her gaze darted to Richard for the briefest second. Just long enough. Richard raised both hands. "I don't know what she's talking about." Dante didn't move. He didn't have to. His stillness was enough to squeeze the truth out of the room. "You manipulated your staff," he said. "You tried to protect your reputation by sacrificing hers." "And what if I did?" Richard snapped. "She's replaceable. People like her always are." The restaurant went silent. Matteo, peeking from behind Dante's leg, whispered, "Papa, he's mean." Dante exhaled once. "Low. Final." "Richard Hale," he said, turning to the gathered diners and staff, "is now barred from operating any establishment in this district. Effective immediately." Richard blinked. "You can't do that." "I just did." Then he turned to Marco. "Show him the legal packet." Marco stepped forward with a folder detailing Richard's financial misconduct. Documents Dante's team had uncovered in less than 48 hours. Hidden funds, evaded taxes, discriminatory employment practices. Enough to ruin not only a career but an entire public image. Richard's mouth fell open. "How did you?" "You should have treated her with dignity," Dante replied. "Today's consequences are yours, not mine." Two security officers, restaurant security, not Dante's, approached Richard. "Mr. Hale," one said cautiously, "we've been instructed by the board to escort you out." "What?" "No, this is my restaurant, this is my floor." "Not anymore." Sophie tried to slip away, but Elena stepped toward her. "Why did you lie about me?" Elena asked softly. Sophie's lower lip trembled. "Richard said if I didn't support his version, he'd cut my hours. I can't afford to lose this job." Elena nodded, sadness weighing her voice. "Fear doesn't justify throwing someone else to the fire." Sophie covered her face, ashamed. Dante placed a gentle hand on Elena's shoulder. "You're done here," he said. "You never belonged to a place that treated you as less." The restaurant watched silently as Dante led her out, not as an employee dismissed, but as a woman finally seen. That night, back at the estate, Elena stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Wind combed through her hair, carrying away the last thin layer of shame she'd carried from the restaurant. Dante joined her, placing a warm drink in her hands. "You didn't have to do all that," she whispered. "I know," he said. "But I pay my debts." She studied him. "And what about Richard? What happens to him now?" "He'll face legal and social consequences," Dante replied. "Not because of me, because he earned them." Elena looked down at the distant glow of Manhattan, a city that had tried to swallow her and accidentally pushed her into a storm that protected her instead. "He said people like me are replaceable," she murmured. Dante turned her to face him. "People like you," he said softly, "are the reason this world still has hope." For the first time she believed him. But the night wasn't done. A sharp buzz came from Dante's phone. He checked it and narrowed his eyes. "What is it?" Lena asked. "A message from a blocked number," he said. "Someone connected to Richard." He handed her the phone. And on the screen, a single sentence glowed. "You ruined the wrong man. This isn't over." Elena felt the air tighten around her. Dante's gaze hardened, resolve settling into place like armor. "Looks like someone else just volunteered to take Richard's place," he said. Then he turned toward the door with a calm that carried the weight of a coming reckoning. And what happened next would make Richard's downfall look merciful. In the days that followed, the message threatening retaliation hung over the estate like an echo waiting for an answer. Yet Elena found herself standing straighter, no longer shrinking into the corners of any room. She'd stepped through chaos and come out with a clarity she didn't know she possessed. What happened at Aurelio's no longer defined her. It revealed who she'd always been. Someone who acted when others hesitated, someone who refused to let cruelty decide her worth. Dante noticed it too. He watched her walk through the study with a quiet certainty. The same woman who once tried to disappear into a uniform now moving with the calm strength of a person who had faced a storm and refused to break. "You're not afraid," he said one evening. "I'm just done being small," she replied. And in that moment, Elena understood the truth she'd been circling for days. Power didn't come from fear or force. It came from standing firm in the light, even when others tried to bury it. Whatever Richard's allies planned, they would fail for the same reason he did, because lies collapse the moment someone chooses to stand against them. That night, as snow drifted past the tall windows, Elena looked out over the city that once ignored her. Now it felt different, as if the world had widened, offering room she'd never been allowed to claim. A single snowflake landed on the glass, catching the glow of the chandelier, a small, bright reminder that change often starts with one brave moment. If this story moved you, please like, share, and help Canada's Heartfelt Tales grow by subscribing to the channel.